No sound. Now there's sound. Welcome, November 14th, 2022. I'm your host, Andrew Fazekas, the Night Sky Guy. Thanks so much for joining me. It's great to see you. I hope you had a great weekend. And we have a busy stargazing week this coming up week. It's chilly where I am. I'm in Montreal, Canada, and we are about almost on the freezing mark. Very cold, chilly winds, but beautiful, clear skies. Hoping to do some sky watching this week, and I hope I can share some of my interesting things that I see coming up on the calendar. So why don't we just dive right in? And we've got the sky set up here for Monday, November 14th. This is what it looks like. If we're looking towards the east, you have the star Capella rising just after, as soon as the sun sets. I'm going to just make this a little bit later, so maybe about a half hour after sunset, I'd say. And it's getting early now. Here, it's just after 5 o'clock where we have sunset here in Montreal, Canada. It's so early. But those stars are coming out with that darkness. You've got Capella, which is the lead star in the constellation Auriga, pinning down the northeast. Then you've got in the southeast Jupiter, which is the brightest of all the star-like planets. So you can't miss that. That is really something that's easy to see. Easy. And if you have binoculars, you can see the moons of Jupiter. And of course, if you have a telescope, you can see atmospheric details. Here we are. If we just zoom in and simulate what that would look like. Let me see if I can get that here. That's through a small telescope. For instance, you can see those bands. You see these bands, cloud bands. That's all eternally enshrouded with clouds, this planet. And 1,200 Earths can fit inside it. And it's just really super bright. Even with binoculars and telescopes, you can see details. And with a telescope, you see a lot of atmospheric details. With binoculars, you'll pinpoint the moons of Jupiter, and you can generally make out the disk, but you have to hold those binoculars extremely steady to get those details with binoculars. Now, next to Jupiter is, of course, Saturn, another beautiful planet, really easy to see, much fainter than Jupiter, though, but still a bright point in the sky in the south, pinning down the south. So again, this is after sunset, maybe about an hour after sunset, twilight conditions. Now, if we kind of move towards the northeast, and I speed up the time, go, say this is set at 5:30, we go to 6:30, 7:30, what you'll notice is our friend Mars, the planet, red planet Mars, is rising up. And it's sandwiched between the horns of Taurus, the bull. And that's really, really cool. Cool sight, visible all around the world. So my friends like Sean from Trinidad, hey Sean, great of you to join. This is something you can go out and check out for yourself on the next clear night, is seeing Mars right there. And we can see, what else are we saying? Oh, happy birthday. Whose birthday? It's my birthday, Claudio. Your birthday from Costa Rica. Happy birthday, Claudio. So great that you could join us today. Hope it's a stellar birthday and you get to do some sky watching too. So yes, this is something that you can see around the world. Mars is sandwiched between the horns of Taurus the bull. The eye of Taurus, very evident, is that orange star, Aldebaran. Different hue though than Mars. You can see that there is a difference. Even in this animation, it's distinguished the two. But yes, even with the eye, you could probably see that there is a difference in color. And then especially if you compare it to Capella, which is just above, almost in a crooked kind of line with Elnath Mars. If you remember, just a few days ago, we had the moon with Elnath Mars forming a nice triangle. I even posted some photos of that I took with my smartphone. I have an iPhone. Taking my dog for a walk in the evening, I was able to capture that. It's really easy to see. And like I said, the moon is a great guidepost for finding things. I always say that because it's just fantastic to be able to see all these different things. And there's Capella right there. That's the bright star in the constellation Auriga. And you see that they form kind of like a line with Mars. So that's something that easy. You can hop from one place to the next, use Mars, Elnath as a guidepost, draw that line, kind of curve it down, and you see the next brightest star is Capella. Super bright star, one of the brightest stars in the entire sky. And Capella, it's the brightest in Auriga. It's marks the left shoulder of the charioteer. And it lies 42.8 light years away. So we're looking back in time, almost 43 years when we see Capella. So that's a really neat, combination. And if we kind of go forward in time a little bit more, say another hour or two, you'll see by 10:30 p.m., around 10, 11 o'clock, depends on where you are in the world, but in the late evening, you'll see, if you look for that moon rising in the northeast late in the evening, you'll notice that it is just below the pair, cosmic pair Castor and Pollux, the Gemini twins. Now, they're very bright stars, white and yellow, and the moon will be underneath it. So the moon is a great guidepost for finding those Gemini twins. They were paired up just the other day as well. And now what's interesting is if you take, say, a pair of binoculars, and this is, again, November 14th. This is tonight, as we're live streaming right now. Once it gets super dark, late at night, look for that moon. You can wait until later, too. I mean, this is at, say, around 10:30, 11:30, 12:30. You can see the moon is rising. So if you just want to wait, it's actually better if you wait late into the night to see less, because if you're looking through low horizon objects, you're looking through a larger column, a thicker column of air. So there's more haze and more pollution. And especially what I'm going to show you here is the beehive cluster. To see it clearly, it's best if the moon rises higher. And of course, because of the glare of the moon, binoculars and telescopes are a must to see this object, the beehive cluster, which is right at the heart of Cancer, the crab constellation. And if you just use that pair of binoculars and you hold it steady, you'll see it next to the moon. This is sort of like what you would see with a pair of binoculars. So you find the moon and then you swing over to the right, and there is the beehive cluster. And the beehive cluster, really beautiful. It is amazing, 610 light years away. Here's a beautiful photograph of the beehive cluster. It really looks like gemstones. It's just so beautiful. Highly recommend it. Oh, we have a question from Nurjahan. Excuse my pronunciation of your name, but Nurjahan is asking, for starters, what kind of equipment should I buy for stargazing? Highly recommend a good guidebook. Learn a few constellations and bright stars with just your eyes. No need for anything else, just your eyes, and spend that little time learning where all the major constellations are. Maybe learn about 5 constellations per season. Get familiar with drawing out the picture pattern of that, of those bright constellations. Things like coming up now in the winter season and in the northern hemisphere, summer season in the southern hemisphere, is Orion. Orion is a fantastic, good starting post uh, to find other nearby constellations as well, using it as a guidepost, as a marker. And then binoculars, maybe a 7x50 pair of binoculars. Expect to pay in US dollars somewhere between around $100 to $200 for a decent pair of binoculars. And then maybe get a tripod for those binoculars so you can hold it steady and see some of these things that I talk about. And then graduate to a small telescope, perhaps. That's the time, because the field of view from moving from the naked eye, which sees big parts of the sky, binocular smaller parts of the sky, and telescopes even more narrow parts of the sky, you really need to be able to navigate. And of course, you could circumvent that by getting a go-to telescope too, something that has computers on board. But I really recommend knowing where you're looking. If you're traveling in the night sky, looking around, learning to navigate is pretty basic, and you'll always enjoy what you find and what you're doing with the hobby so much more if you're really familiar with the lay of the land and where things are in the sky. So that's my kind of recommendation, quickly, just off the top of my head. But this beautiful beehive cluster next to the moon, again, Monday night, as we speak. And then if we go a little bit later, you can see that in the week, if we go to Tuesday, look where the moon is. The moon is in the mouth of Leo the Lion. So this is on Tuesday, Wednesday, November 16th after midnight. So really, if I just, it's a little confusing, I'm sorry, but let me just go back here. So that's around 11:30, and you can see that the moon is just above the horizon there. So really, it's after local midnight that this is best to see. So this is in the early morning hours of Wednesday, November 16th. So the moon has really transferred from a late evening object in the second half of this week, from a late evening object to a early morning object, or overnight hours kind of object. So either you get up early or you stay up late to see the moon after local midnight in the early morning hours. So here you are. The moon is in the mouth of Leo the Lion. Again, this is looking towards the east after local midnight. And if we kind of move it even later, say around 2, 3 o'clock, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, say 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, there you go. So now Leo, by we're talking about midweek, you get up early, maybe you're an early bird, while it's still dark, and you can see the moon looking towards the southeast south part of the sky, very high up. The moon will be, and it will be in Leo, so easy to see. And one of the really cool things that you can see with Leo, with the moon even being so bright, is the star Regulus. Regulus is a star that's 78 light years away, so it almost takes an average human lifetime for the light from Regulus to reach us here on Earth. And what's particularly neat is that it marks the heart of Leo the Lion traditionally. It used to be called Cor Leonis, but now it's called Regulus. And it's just a gorgeous pairing with the moon. Highly recommend that. There you go. You can see with the moon. And one of the really neat things about Leo, I should say, is it looks like a giant backwards question mark. I know with the moon being there when Wednesday morning, around 5, 6 o'clock, we're looking at high in the sky, you may have a problem with the moon's glare kind of cutting off these stars that I'm marking out here. So You might want to wait another night, and if we or another morning, I should say, go by, say, November 17th, you'll see that the moon is still in Leo, but this time in the belly of the lion, and next to it is Regulus. So you'll see that bright white star, that point of light, next to the crescent moon. Just a gorgeous pairing there in the southern sky. And if we continue the journey of the moon, watching in the early morning, now it's at the back feet of Leo the lion. Again, still very high up in the early morning skies. This is waking up before dawn, or at dawn. You can see that moon, and you might see another bright star, not quite as bright as Regulus, but this is neat. Many people don't really think about this star, but it is part of Leo the lion, and it's called the nebula. And the nebula marks the tail, the end of the tail of Leo the lion. And it forms kind of a neat triangle here of stars with Chertan and what's this other one here? Zosma, that's right. So they form kind of its own little triangle. You can try to see it. It's next to the crescent moon. Maybe a pair of binoculars will help you. But what I want you to notice here, and it's kind of neat, is that you have the nebula, which, by the way, is, how far away is it? It's almost 36 light years away. And what's really neat is that look at the distance between Regulus and the nebula. That's the span of how large a constellation is. And I want you to kind of take a mental note of that when you go outside and look for the nebula and Regulus. Again, this is early Friday morning that you're looking where the moon is, and you see the nebula, you see Regulus. Look how wide. I mean, you see it looks tiny on your screen probably. You're watching this, what I'm projecting here, this animation of Leo the lion, and it's tiny. It would be even in a guidebook, small. But look at it in the sky, and you'll see that it does take up a fairly large portion of the sky. That space between the nebula and Regulus, it's quite impressive how big Leo the lion constellation is. And I think most people who are new to the hobby are going to be very surprised at finding, whoa, these constellations actually take up big parts of the sky. And that's one of those things that mentally you have to kind of take note when you're learning about the night sky and learning about how to find constellations. They look tiny in a guidebook, these constellations, these pictures that we kind of connect the dots with. But in the sky, they take up large parts of the sky. And it's that dimension, what you should be looking for, how big of objects are, how big are these pictures that we have in the sky. It's really impressive, and it's something that you have to take a mental note and kind of think about when you're learning to navigate the night sky and hopping from constellation to constellation, trying to make out a constellation. You'll notice that they are large generally in the sky, many of them. So there you go. That's by Friday. The moon is in the back feet of Leo, and then it enters Virgo, the maiden constellation, by the coming up weekend. This is Saturday morning, and by Sunday morning and Monday morning next week, look where it is. So this is Monday, November 21st. This is Sunday, November 20th. Man, still in the early morning. If you get up in the morning, this is where you'll see it. Looking towards the east, you'll see the crescent moon, just really gorgeous, next to a blue-white star. It really is just a beautiful pairing. I can zoom in on it, and you can see here at the bottom half of Virgo, the maiden, and there's Spica. And Spica is a star that's about 260 light years away. Just brilliant, and just showcases how bright this inherently, the luminosity of this star is, that it still ranks as one of the brightest stars in the sky, despite being an incredible distance of 250, 260 light years away. And there's that really razor-thin crescent moon. So mark that down on your calendar. Again, this is Sunday, the moon and Spica, and it forms kind of a long triangular shape with another star, Arcturus. So you get this really beautiful orange and blue star pairing with the moon as well. The moon, again, acting as a great guidepost. Use that moon to find these other stars that I'm pointing out here. Makes it a lot easier. Again, early morning Sunday, and then Monday is this Monday morning, Spica and the moon. Really close. Great photo opportunity too. perhaps. So get out your smartphones and see if you can snap a beautiful picture of that crescent moon at dawn with that blue star. Now, one last thing before I go, we got to talk about it. Heading back, let's head back to this week, to Thursday night, Friday morning. I'm going to put this at sunset Thursday, and a little bit later, here we go. There's the sky. I'm going to talk about a meteor shower. Leonid's meteor shower is what I wanted to mention. The Leonids. The Leonids, as its name implies, Leonids, appears to radiate out from one part of the sky, occupied, of course, by the constellation Leo. And so this is usually a sparse, in the last few years, it hasn't been much to talk about the Leonids, but this year it could be different. The Leonids have been predicted by an astronomer who specializes in meteor forecasting, has predicted an outburst potentially from the Leonid meteor shower. What does that mean? That means that we might see more shooting stars than we normally do on every other year with the Leonids, which is great for us. And where do you look? Well, the radiant, where they appear to radiate out from. So if you follow each individual shooting star from the Leonids, they all appear to come out from, of course, the constellation Leo. We were just talking about it, right? So there's Leo rising in the northeast just after midnight. And the predicted outburst of the Leonid meteor shower. Now, just to put into perspective, normally we see maybe 15, 20 shooting stars, if we're lucky, per hour, okay, with the Leonids on peak night. But at 1 o'clock in the morning, Eastern time, 1 a.m. Eastern time, Friday, November 18th, is when there's supposed to be a peak, maybe as many as 200 to 300 shooting stars per hour coming from the Leonid meteor shower. This is potentially amazing to view. Obviously, you need dark skies. It's going to favor those folks that are on the east coast of North America and even east of that potentially as well. So 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is equivalent to 600 UTC. So 6 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, approximately universal time is when. So you can do your kind of calculation, but that is when the peak is. How long is it going to be? We don't know. Is it going to actually transpire? Are we going to get that peak? We don't know. It's a prediction by an astronomer. It's potential. The only way we're going to know is if you go outside and look for yourself. But check that out. It's going to be really, really cool to see the Leonids peaking perhaps in an outburst of up to 200, 300. I got to go out and see it. So I'm hoping I'm going to have clear skies. Remember, 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is when this peak of the Leonids is supposed to happen. No need for binoculars and telescopes. All you need is clear skies, a dark site potentially. If you can get out of the city, that's great. If you're stuck within the city, turn off your porch lights, get your neighbors to turn off lights, find a municipal park where there's no lights, where you can kind of not have anything shining in your face, no light. Make sure you turn off your smartphones. Turning off your smartphones are very important. That blue-white light can be very blinding, and it takes 15 minutes to a half hour for your eyes to adapt to darkness once that light from your phone hits your eyes. So turn off your phones, preferably, if you can, and avoid looking at any bright lights when you're looking for meteors. That's one of the key things. And get comfortable. Don't stand around for an hour looking up like with a crink in your neck. Try to find a spot where you can put a blanket down or maybe a reclining lawn chair. Make sure you have warm clothes. It gets chilly in the northern hemisphere, but this is visible throughout the world. Even if you're in the southern hemisphere, you can look for the Leonids. It's exciting because of that potential prediction of a outburst. Let's hope it happens. If I get more information, I'll post it on all my social media feeds. So do hit that notification button. You don't want to miss any of my posts that are coming up. Now, busy sky, and I'll post sky charts for all of this stuff on my timeline, so you'll see that. If you're interested more about the night sky, don't forget I have a new book out, my atlas, Stargazer's Atlas. It's 6.5 pounds. It's out by National Geographic. I'm the lead author of this book. I'm so excited because it's a fantastic resource for you to plan your night sky adventures. This is something that you can use on a rainy or cloudy day during the daytime. Get all jazzed up about what you want to go out and see with your eyes, with binoculars, with telescopes. I've got sky charts for both northern and southern hemisphere. Everything's included here. This is a great resource, makes a great gift too, I think. And I am selling basically signed, personally dedicated copies on my website. You can go to thenightskyguy.com and get your order your copy. I ship internationally, and we can share our email. We can converse on email, and you can tell me through email what you like, how you like it to be personally dedicated, if that's what you're interested in, and I'll put it in the mail. I've got 8 copies left now out of my stock. They're selling fast, faster than I was expecting, which is fantastic, I guess. It's holiday time, but if you want to get it by the holidays, make sure you put in your order. So I have a few copies left. Get yours in now. I'll put a link in the comments for where you can make your purchase and find out more about the book, of course, if you're interested. And with that, thank you so much for tuning in. It was great. It was great seeing you guys. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, whether you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, or Twitch. I'd love to see your support. It allows me to make more videos like this on my channels, and I'll keep them coming, all kinds of really interesting stuff. And until next time, I'll see you, I guess, on Friday, on my Friday Find. Do tune into my other show on Fridays. And until then, I wish all of you clear skies. Bye-bye.